Thank you very much for joining us.
Lovely to meet you.
The Green Party, in the last general election, the vote share fell quite heavily. Partially that is due to the Green Party's own choices, of course, with standing down in some seats. But with the general election likely to come up pretty soon, what do you think the future of the Green Party is?
Well, I think to address the last point of your question first, I don't think we know quite when the next general election will be. And it's possible that we'll be having a ratification referendum on the Brexit result before we have a general election, because it's very clear from the general election this year has demonstrated that we can't solve anything in terms of finding a way forward with Brexit from a general election. But going back to this year's general election, it's true that our vote fell significantly, but it is worth noting that we got our second best result ever in terms of a general election after 2015, when we got 1.1 million votes. Now, that was a function of the fact that people were very desperate to get rid of the Tories. People very much heard this snap election as a contest between who was going to be Prime Minister. I think that was the special circumstances of 2017. It won't necessarily hold in the future. And we have coming up council elections around the country next year. We'll be looking to grow our number of Green councillors then, and we're starting from a much stronger base than we've ever been in before, coming off the Green surge of 2015. And I think it's very clear that both Tory and Labour are in a deep state of disarray, and who knows whether Tory party will exist in its current form in 10 years' time. The Labour Party has similar levels of division around Brexit and other issues. So our politics is clearly broken, and what we really need is a different electoral system, a different political system. We haven't got a democracy now. What Britain needs, the Brexit vote showed we need to become a democracy. People said they wanted to take back control. They were absolutely right about that. They need to take back control in Westminster, rather than the real problem being Brussels.
Yeah. And so, moving on from that, with the voting system we have in this country, it is obviously very hard for the Greens to get any significant seats. And there was lots of talk last election with general progressive alliance, and the Green Party obviously did quite a lot in that, in standing down for certain seats. Do you think that's still an option for the next general election, working with them? The other parties don't seem very reciprocal to that, they don't?
Well, I think we took a very brave decision, and a decision that we paid for. I mean, it's worth saying that the way this works is we get funding as a party to operate in Parliament, to assist Caroline Lucas, the Green MP, operating in Parliament, and we've seen that fall significantly because our number of votes fell. So wherever you are in the country, Green votes actually do have an impact in terms of ensuring we've got the resources to operate in Parliament, to be more. Caroline is amazingly effective as one MP, but obviously the more staff she has, the more she's able to do. But I think where we're headed is towards, we have to have that electoral reform. Future talks, absolutely electoral reform is the focus of that. But I think the way to achieve that is, rather than talking about what happens in terms of votes and constituencies, we really need to build that agreement on electoral reform, on a fair voting system all around the country. So, for example, I was in a meeting with an organisation called Make Votes Matter, and they're cross-party. They're working very much to build that consensus to say we want a parliament that reflects the views of the people. We want a democracy, because Britain isn't one now. Okay.
Slightly unrelated to the previous questions, we've got Brexit likely coming up, and Britain, I know you might, hopefully for you want a second referendum. If Britain does leave the EU, we're obviously going to be more isolated than we've been in a very long time. And what do you think Britain's role will then be in tackling global warming and other environmental issues?
Well, first of all, to address the preview of your question, which was, Brexit is going to happen. I think it's increasingly looking like there's a significant chance that it won't happen. We're clearly not ready to do it. The government is incapable of delivering it. I've just been down in a union debate on climate change, and I made a joke about the opposition down there being like the Tory cabinet, and everyone immediately knew what I meant. And interestingly, the Spectator actually ran a report saying the cabinet has never debated what sort of Brexit they actually want. So we don't have a government capable of delivering Brexit. But if we do end up with Brexit, I mean, what we've been saying is we want to remain in the single market to keep all the environmental protections of the single market. That doesn't keep everything. I mean, that keeps a lot of cover in terms of health of food, in terms of the kind of products and the safety of the products, and worker protections stay with the single market. Things like habitat protectives we could still lose. So what we're saying is if we do leave, we need an Environment Act that keeps the standard of environmental protection at least as high as we've got now, and ideally higher.
Okay, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Thanks very much.